Pripyat is cold, so let's take a look at the intro sequence of Stalker, Call of Pripyat.
At 0123 on April 26, 1986, the reactor of Power Block 4 of Chernobyl NPP is destroyed following a series of thermal explosions. Despite the disaster, the Chernobyl NPP continues to operate to set up a network of secret laboratories in the exclusion zone. The government decides to launch a large-scale military operation. Operation Fairway, as it came to be known, the operation is a failure, and none of the helicopters return from the mission. Major Dekhtyrov, a USS special agent, is sent into the zone to investigate the disappearance of the helicopters. Disguised as a stalker, equipped with a regular assault rifle, 2 weeks' worth of supplies, and a radio to communicate with HQ, the Major begins his journey towards the center of the zone.
And so we are sent off to discover what happened during Operation Fairway and investigate happenings all around the zone. Our first points of interest are the 5 Stingray crash sites, which might help to lead to more information further down the line, and so, off we go. Compared to Clear Sky, the HUD has changed once again, but all the familiar elements are still there. Now, we even get some programmable quick buttons for medkits and other consumables. There's also a few more changes compared to Clear Sky, but we'll go over those when they become relevant. The first place to go is Skadovsk, which is pretty much an abandoned ship right in the middle of frickin' nowhere. This is where we meet a couple of people, like Beard the Barkeep, Owl the Trader, and Kardan the Technician. Also newly introduced is a way to sleep, which is pretty nice, and we even meet someone like Nimble. Look at that! We rescued this guy, like way back in Shadow of Chernobyl. That's pretty neat. In the beginning, I literally just take on whatever quests I can, as there doesn't seem to be any visible penalty to not finishing a quest. I do believe that both people and factions might get a negative opinion of you, but I have not seen any impact of that, so we should be good, and even if it is, then it's sort of hidden in the background. During this, we also talk to Sultan, who apparently is trying to plan an attack on Beard's stalkers. Now, number one, I find it kind of hilarious that this happens like 10 meters away from Beard. Like, he's literally looking into our direction. But sure, we'll revisit this quest line later. But first, we go on artifact hunt. And listen, Call of Pripyat is not going to be much better than Clear Sky in terms of artifacts. At least for me. I have some horrible luck when it comes to artifacts. It's crazy. After collecting the first artifact for Beard, a bunch of random guys show up claiming that they need this for their buddy.
Remember this moment, that's for sure.
How about no?
I get rid of all of the guys wanting to rob me blind and return to Beard. Now something tells me these may or may not be the same guys going after Beard stalkers sent from Sultan. So, you know, maybe not, but it doesn't matter. I don't like the backstabbing kind, so there is only one thing to do. After bringing the artifact to Beard, I tell him about the attack and will actually help out Beard instead. This guy seems way more likable anyway. Like, compared to someone who calls himself Sultan. Who chooses a name like that? It would be if you call yourself King or Emperor. Come on. We go over and sell some stuff, and sadly, there's a new change that you can't sell weapons that are too damaged. Now this sucks because that's like most of what you find. And it's not like in this game you'll be swimming in money anyway. But you know, to give a bit of a spoiler here, at least bandits are not going to take, you know, 11,000 rubles from me, so...
And yes, I'm still pissed about that.
Suddenly an mission starts and I am just here waiting.
An emission is approaching. I repeat, an emission is approaching. Seek cover immediately.
That's interesting. So apparently since sea consciousness has been turned off, the zone simply pushes out emissions every now and then. Oh boy. Well, we can either skip this by simply going to sleep for a while or just waiting it out. Now I decide to wait it out for like 5 minutes and then we're good again. But alright, we follow this huge pipeline towards a stash because, well, I mean, maybe there's something interesting there, right? However, sadly, a new change again is that the stash information is no longer shown when you hover over the stash on the map. This is how it used to work, and it was amazing. So you just already knew, oh, you have to go around the pillar, it's like on top of the pillar, something like that. I just walk around the pillar 2 times and I say, frick it, I couldn't find it. We'd rather make our way to Grouse, with whom we clear out 2 bloodsuckers. The first one on the first floor and the second one 1 floor below. Now descending down to the basement, well, we make a horrifying discovery. First of all of the guys are dead. However, there's another thing. There's about a good dozen bloodsuckers. Luckily, all sleeping, so we have to stay very, very quiet and move slowly not to wake them. This is probably, the most tense part about this whole game. Like, this part in this sequence is just 10 out of 10, absolutely amazing. I love this. We emerge from a sewage pipe directly near where Stingray 5 crash landed, and so of course, I take the opportunity and investigate. And
all the electronics inside burned out. Even the power cable sheaths melted.
alright, that's really not useful at all, but I guess there are 4 more crash sites to look at, so off we go. Stingray 2 is super close to us, so we pretty much just follow this ridge to get to a power station or like a relay station. And while within it, there are objects being thrown at us again by these, phantom invisible guys. There's not really anything we can do about it except avoid it. Stingray 2, once again, only has limited information for us. However, the onboard computer, well, that at least gets us.
The computer was a little luckier. I wonder if there's anything useful here. Ah, there's something. A map of the area with certain locations marked. That should come in handy.
And then I go straight towards Stingray 3, and oh my lord. Well, first of all, I visit this pit of fire and death because there has to be an artifact in there, right? Of course there was. A crystal which gives you thermal protection and radiation again. I'm telling you, these artifacts, I've literally only ever found things with radiation. I don't even know if they're randomized or not, or if it's set in stone where the artifacts are, but I just had the worst freaking luck. Since the ending of Shadow of Chernobyl, I have not found a single artifact that didn't give me radiation, and I know that there are artifacts that, like subtract radiation, that like suck it out of you, I guess. I have not found any of them, so, Well, after this small excursion, I tried to scale up the plateau. Now, to be fair, it did say right there, talk to the Stalkers, which I conveniently ignored. Oh, well. We'll just skip over the 5 minutes of failing to scale the plateau until I finally decided to read the log, and lo and behold, the solution has been there the entire time. So in order to get to the crash site, we need to talk to Noah, who has a bit of a loose trigger finger, it seems, and lives on a ship. You could say an Ark. I guess. Oh, Noah in the Ark. That's kind of cute. Anyway, we go with Noah to an insane place full of fire and brimstone, and now we simply need to jump into an anomaly which will transport us to the plateau. While there, we collect another artifact, and then it is time for a leap of faith. Pretty fitting when you ask me. And finally, we made it to the plateau. Anyway, Stingray 3 gives us some amazing information, which is...
information on the onboard computer. Okay. So Stingray 3 had engine failure in both engines. What else is there? A map with what look like possible evacuation locations. Positions B2, B28, and B205. Interesting.
Now that is fantastic. The only issue here is that one of the evacuation positions is right in the middle of Pripyat.
It's calling for us.
On the flip side though, one of them is right here in Skadovsk. But before we ask Beard about this, first of all, I decided to visit this nice mercenary camp. I mean, surely these will be affable people, right? I linger around for a bit, and they don't seem to attack me, but then suddenly... Excuse me? That's not okay. Ram Joe, back in business, baby. And pretty much the entire thing just goes like this. I didn't even die often enough to make a death montage, okay? There's nothing here. So making short work of these mercenaries, I collect some of their data, and this can be sold to the highest bidder. Quite neat. Then on the long track back to Skadovsk, this is where I encounter some snorks. Now, oh my, this migration here just looks creepy AF. What the frick, man? Finally back at the ship, we tell Beard about the bloodsucker layer we snuck ourselves out of, and he offers some advice. We might be able to get our hands on some gas to, well, gas these suckers out. More information from Owl. Alright, well, we also ask about any military showing up, but sadly, there is nothing. Oh well. With Owl first, I sell some stuff, including the mercenary information, and get some nice cash. I also ask about some information for poison gas to clear out the bloodsuckers. This I get after paying 2,000 rubles for it. We learned that a poison gas container was transported once by a military convoy that is now sitting on a bridge, abandoned. Alright, that seems pretty easy then. The box with the gas container is locked and requires 2 keys. However, both are actually really easily gotten, just from 2 different military vehicles. This one, it's like it could have been expanded just a little bit more. Like, what if instead of one of those keys, you had a note in there saying to meet a person at a particular place, or saying something like, oh, I have made a new stash and that is where the key is, and then just telling us a vague way to get there. This is a similar type of criticism that I already had with some of the missions in Clear Sky. And yes, I don't really like the senseless walking from A to B to C, back to A, and then to B again maybe. But the important word here though is senseless. You know, make the journey mean something, you know? I don't know. It really didn't feel anything. Not only was the journey sort of not really, like it didn't mean anything, it was just going from one car to the another and then back to the other. It felt weird. Anyway, we got the 2 keys and the gas canister. Of course, the damn thing weighs 10 kilograms. So now I can't run anymore. So against my better judgment, I decide to just walk slowly towards the bloodsucker nest. One great thing that is changed in Call of Pripyat is that the stamina actually regenerates while you're walking. Now, it generates slowly, but it still does, and that is awesome. So at least now I don't have to stop every 10 meters for like an hour just to catch my breath. So there's at least that. And just like that, we're there. We put the gas in and obviously get attacked by a couple of these suckers, but then it is done. Bloodsuckers are no more. This is perfect timing as well, because right around midnight I was supposed to help with the ambush on Beard's men, where, of course, we'll double-cross the robbers, obviously. And that happens with a well-placed grenade and some fire, and, well, that was way easier than I expected. And for this we even get some crazy rewards. Back at Skadovsk, Beard is elated that the bloodsucker nest is destroyed. I also get all sorts of other quests from him, because why not? And then I talk to Sultan, whose plan obviously we just foiled, and there was nothing. I'd hoped for like a bit of a confrontation, something, anything, but nope, zero, nada, nothing, null. Kind of a bummer, to be honest. I got all my gear repaired and then talked to Pilot. Now this guy will guide us to the next zone, that being Yanov Station, and it only costs 1,000 rubles. Sure, off we go. Yanov Station is basically the new safe haven for us to chill at, talk to people, and get some quests. We even have a mechanic, a shop, and a medic. All quite useful. Nitro the mechanic actually gives us some pretty cool quests to find some radio equipment, and later he also asks for tools. I'll do a short rant on that once we get to the quest. For now though, it is off to explore some of this new map. On the way to one of the evacuation points, we encounter some zombies. Some of them even with military gear. Oh, this does not bode well. Within the building, there are some more documents. And going through the basement into the facility, we encounter this guy. Even with 2 grenades, my man still takes like a whole magazine. Jeez. Next, I decided to visit the mobile lab right here, the layout of which is somewhat familiar, it seems. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this was pretty much just the reused station from Lake Yantar.
Hey.
In the lab itself, we just get our stuff repaired and then sell off some stuff at Yanov Station. Making a quick excursion to find Nitro's radio equipment, the layout of the building is an absolute mess, with very few indications where you're supposed to go. This, at least for me, becomes a recurring issue on, you know, with a couple of buildings and a couple of quests. Also, I try to find where this freaking artifact is, and I just don't know on which floor it is. I was like, oh, it has to be on the top floor or the roof or something, but nothing. Falling from this height, my guy takes barely any fall damage. Like, what the heck? All right, man, keep on trucking. I decided to go down here and follow the artifact for, well, basically a whole bunch of nothing, except, hey, it's a stash from our good friend S.T.A.L.K.E.R. We really can't escape this guy now, can we? And it even has a note from some of the happenings that were happening during Clear Sky. That is somewhat neat. And we even find 2 artifacts, which once again both give radiation. So I guess they're at least good for some money. Back to our man Nitro to give him the radio equipment. And then I realized in order to get some of the upgrades, Nitro needs tools.
Listen, it makes logical sense. He offers us the quest to get some tools, however, without any indication of where to find them. And that's the issue. It would have been great even if it was just something like, oh, you might want to check out, you know, the old garage or the tech store or the sewers. Something like that. But sadly there was nothing, and not even a quest marker on the map, so yeah. Additionally, every time I see a wrench or a screwdriver model anywhere, I can't even pick them up. And so I just completely ignore that quest line, which is a real shame, because gating the upgrades behind some quests, I really like it. It's just not well implemented in this game.
But we have a proper mission, Stingray 1 crash site. Before going there though, I wanted to check out this weird place that surely has a worthwhile artifact waiting for us, right? Right? And of course it does at least have an artifact. After one or two shocking experiences, we got ourselves an artifact which gives us side protection and of course radiation. Onto the crash site of Stingray 1. Towards it there are mines. And not the good kind as well. I think to myself, well, maybe I can blow them up with some bolts. Well, of course not, right? That would be ridiculous. So in my infinite wisdom, what do you think I do?
I just run through. What the heck am I supposed to say, man? Okay, how the frick am I alive?
Everyone knows that after stepping on a small mine, you just take some pills, take a medkit or two, and you're pretty much gonna be good. Now, in my defense, okay, let's see what Stingray 1 has for us first.
2 bodies. Looks like they died in the crash. Everything of value has been looted and the onboard computer has been wiped clean. But the black box is still intact. Interesting. I reckon a decent technician will be able to extract the information on it and decode it.
A decent technician, you say? If only there was someone like that. Someone who just needs some radio equipment and is looking for tools. Obviously, Nitro has our back. That is pretty awesome. Then all of a sudden, a crap ton of animals just run towards my location and they all blow themselves up on the mines. I mean, alright, that's quite interesting. Now, one of the issues with getting through a minefield is you also have to leave it again. So what do? I just run through it again. Oh man. With broken armor and helmet, we go back to Nitro and he just needs a little bit of time decrypting the black box. Also, he repairs our broken armor and helmet, so we are literally as good as new. That's all it takes. We go sleep for a couple of hours to skip the wait, and then Nitro has the black box decrypted and charges us 2100 rubles for it. Well, alright. This, however, does reveal some very useful information.
Stingray 4, come in. Come in, damn it. Stingray 4, do you read? Attention, Stingray Group. This is Stingray 1. The emergency evacuation position is B28. I repeat, B28.
So now we finally have the proper evacuation location, and of course, it is right in the middle of Pripyat. Great. Pilot, our guide, tells us that he's not interested in finding a new route towards Pripyat. However, he does tell us that the Jupiter plant had tunnels which led there, and quite fortuitously, he also had a buddy who worked for them. So I guess our next stop, the Jupiter plant. Both because this is the most likely way to get to Pripyat, and also this is the crash site of Stingray 4. So catching 2 birds with 1 stone. Now the actual layout of this place was a bit confusing to me at first. Well, sure, you can go up the stairs and, oh, no smoking by the way. The area itself felt quite restrictive. Like the game was forcing me and saying,
you go this way and no other.
Well, I eventually figure it out and of course go to the office where it is revealed that the underpass was filled with gas after it was sealed. That might be a bit of an issue, but at least it confirms there is an underpass. Continuing along, we can take a look at Stingray 4, which basically had the same issue as Stingray 5. We continue and I get freaking jump scared by this guy, holy. Anyway, more documents about the underpass are within the main chamber and it tells us...
The entrance to the underpass is here. If we activate the generator, we'll be able to open the transportation lock.
So you're saying there's a chance?
And indeed there is. Relaying all this information to Nitro, he tells us to talk to Zulu. He might be able to help. Also for this mission, every person coming will need a closed cycle suit because, well, the gas in the tunnels. Before I speak to Zulu though, I think to myself, how about we get some side quests done? First, I talk to Uncle Yor, with whom we go to Kupachi. There, waiting for some mercenaries to arrive, and then we just mow them down. That was quite a weird side mission, but at least we got 6k rubles out of it. That's pretty good. And on our return, we overhear a guy having a bit of a problem. Of course, I decide to talk to him. This is Vano, and he has some debts with bandits. These are the wrong people to be indebted to. And then he just gives us 5,000 rubles and lets us pay it off for him. I guess we have a trustworthy face. We'll revisit this in a bit, but first I decide to go to Zulu. Now this guy won't talk unless we drink. Now, I was super nervous, man. It's like, my man is going to rob me blind after I pass out, right? Like, that's just going to happen. But luckily, no robbery happened that day. At least not of money. And also we come to an agreement. We'll get a team together and then go towards Pripyat with a whole squad.
Now, building a squad, listen, I freaking love the idea, okay? Mechanic like this, it is so freaking cool. You know, not only do you interface with a lot of different characters, it also forces you to engage with them and their problems, you know, to keep the morale up. So depending on how it's implemented, man, you might have some pretty unique combinations of characters too. You know, maybe you can take like 10 of them with you, but you only need 3, things like that. And sometimes you might even need people of different skills, right? So maybe we need to take a technician with us or like a demolitions expert. I'm sure it will play out exactly like that, right? Right?
Well, not quite. First of all, I ask Uncle Yor, who declines. Well, fair enough, not everyone is crazy enough to go to Pripyat. And also I go around and see if I can't find anyone else. But not really. Well, then the best place to go would be the bandits that Vano owes money to. Maybe, you know, he's gonna join after I pay off his debt. I first talked to the bandit leader, who is now asking for 7 big ones instead of 5 big ones, and that's not how negotiating is done. I give him the 7k and shoot both of these guys, but of course now there's no way to get my money back, so, yeah, I'm just gonna reload and start the conversation all over again. This time, though, with lead negotiations. We make short work of the bandits, and I loot everything that is not nailed down. Return to Vano, and he is very open to join the squad, which is great news. I even give him the 5k back so he can buy himself the closed cycle suit that he needs too. The first squad member acquired. However, as we know, one is none, so we better try and find a second person to join our squad. We find someone else who is willing to go, and that is Lieutenant Sokolov. Not only is he just chilling in the lab, he also happens to be one of the pilots from the Stingrays, meaning his own orders are to proceed to the evacuation zone inside of Pripyat. He pretty much only needs a protective suit, which we can get from the scientists. The quest for them it's so simple, I'm pretty much almost disappointed. We just have to go into like this toxic area, retrieve a flower, and that's it. It was like done in like a minute and a half. So just like that, we get ourselves the suit and I guess another squad mate. I think to myself though, there have to be more people. This can't be everything. So basically I spend the next 30 minutes aimlessly wandering about Zeton, which is this entire area over here, not really doing anything interesting at all. I mean, I get myself some loot, I plunder a couple of stashes, that's pretty much it. And because I can't find anyone else, I guess we're ready to go to Pripyat. Except, of course, now I also need a protective suit, and I mean, come on, I've got 25,000 rubles. Surely it won't be that expensive. 30,000 rubles? Okay. I do a couple of side missions, including getting rid of 2 bloodsuckers by the cement factory, and that money, including selling my own armor, that gets me just enough to buy the suit.
It is crazy how these games always come down to money. In Shadow of Chernobyl, I had too much money, so I got the greedy ending. In Clear Sky, bandits stole 11,000 rubles from me. No, I'm still not over it. Sorry, it is what it is. And then here, in this game, to finally answer the call of Pripyat, the thing we've been waiting for, picking up the damn phone, we have to put down 30,000 rubles on the damn table. Damn!
Anyway, with the suits equipped, the squad is ready, morale at an all-time high, let's get to fucking Pripyat. Now this journey is going to be crazy. The tunnels are dark, full of snorks and other baddies, and of course Zulu dies in the first freaking minute. It wasn't me! I did not shoot him. Roll the clip! We sneak through some anomalies, open doors, and make our way through these creepy freaking tunnels. Many snorks continuously attack us, and when this big gate opens, a bunch of them attack us right at the same time. With this whole area, once again, the atmosphere is freaking fantastic. This is quintessential Stalker gameplay. To open the door to the next section, we have to turn on the power. After I do that, all of a sudden we get jumped and attacked by these guys. I don't know what Monolith is doing here, but they are, and they are giving us a hell of a time. Luckily, both Vano and Sokolov are unharmed, and we can continue making our way through the tunnels. More zombies and snorks are trying to stop us, but we are an unbeatable team, and just like that, we ascend the ladder to Pripyat. Of course, we get a friendly welcome by the military as we emerge.
Put your weapons on the ground, now!
Don't shoot! I'm Lieutenant Sokolov, co-pilot of Stingray 4. I'm on my way to B-28, the emergency...
And finally, we can disclose who we are and what our location
I
is.
have information for Kowalski. Take me to him.
You know Kowalski?
Who are you? What's your business with the commander?
I'm Major S.T.A.L.K.E.R, USS. I'm here to investigate the failure.
And thus we are brought to Colonel Kowalski. His suspicion is that the helicopters were shut down by a powerful weapon, and we have a possibility of retrieving one if we join an ambush on some Monolith squad. What is really cool about this last section of the game is that we can go to the technician and the medic and request free ammo and medical supplies. Repairs from the technician are also entirely free. You'll love to freaking see it. Of course, I take part in the ambush and we sneak our way into position. I take out the squad with a well-placed grenade and a few shots. However, after going after them, it turns out the ambush was not for them. It was for us. After an incredibly harrowing fight with the Monoliths guys, I get the final guy that has the strange weapon we're looking for. I put it in my pocket and we go back to Kowalski. Before finding someone who can tell us about the Ghost Rifle, we first must find out what happened to the recon unit. And they're all dead. It's even more Monolith guys, which is a real issue. They are hiding in a nearby bookstore. So, with our two buddies, Vano and Sokolov, we approach that location and give these fanatics some hell. In there we make a rather shocking discovery. These Monolith guys are in a trance around a pillar. This is absolutely crazy. I will say though, in this third game, I would have really hoped for an even crazier side of Monolith. Like, you know, some of them lighting themselves on fire, or some, you know, like eating uranium so that they get like mutated on themselves. Something just insane. But whatever the case may be, clearing out the hideout, it gets clear that Monolith soldiers are being controlled by someone from somewhere. And the next step is to find out about the Ghost Rifle. At first I thought Nitro might know something about it, but nothing. Turns out we did meet one other technician back in Skadovsk. We have the guy to drop us off and Cordon takes a look and all of a sudden becomes drunk or something? I'm kind of confused at why this happened or what is happening, but alright, we simply take a nap for a few hours and he's back to his senses. Now lucky for us, Cordon used to work at the Jupiter plant where they made these types of weapons. And not only that, my guy still has the key card to his workshop.
Sometimes you just have to get lucky. You know, finally catching a break.
So we descend into this super creepy laboratory where we fight some zombies, get some loot, and then descend even further down. I pushed up the brightness during the editing of this bit because I tend to play with a bit of a higher gamma, which doesn't really show up in the recording. Just so that you're aware, it's way darker in here. And then down there, we encounter this fellow. Now, I foolishly decide to start fighting this guy. If you know, you know, because this was a bad idea. After legitimately all my ammunition is gone, the mutant finally dies. And I immediately reload because, nah, bro, that's insane. You know how much money that was just shot into this guy? Absolutely not. I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to get rid of this guy anyway. You know, he's just supposed to be a nuisance while you navigate the room. And while he definitely was, one of the different things that was also a nuisance is, well, moving up to the upper platform, I really hate it that you have to go around this weird vent. It doesn't look, you know, video game logic means that the way is usually obvious. This was not obvious. And like I said before, this has happened a couple of times. I think it will happen a couple of times again. So, I don't know. The entire lever design of Call of Pripyat, it's been worse, in my opinion, compared to both of the predecessors. It either forces a singular way, which sometimes is just slightly obfuscated, or it just doesn't appear like it's the actual way at all. It's somewhat of a minor issue, but I don't know. It might have also just been my brain, because I played this after I was recovering from a cold, so who knows. But it is something I noticed. I would genuinely like to hear your opinion in the comments below if you noticed this as well, or if it's just a personal thing that just happened to me. Anyway, in this big room, we find out about Lab X8 and conveniently also get the keycard to it. And once again, this is one of those things. They could have tied this keycard back to like Cordon's backstory or something like that. Because so far, and this might be my own fault once again, barely any of the characters have like any character. I don't know, I probably feel most attached to Vano at this point because at least his side quest was somewhat unique, but I don't know. I do know that a lot of the community really likes Call of Pripyat, and I've enjoyed my time so far, don't get me wrong. But especially compared to Shadow of Chernobyl, something's missing. Regardless, we'll get to all of that in my final thoughts. First, off to Kowalski to tell him about our findings. Well, even though we found something, it is pretty much a dead end. However, there are some mercenaries doing shady stuff around. So, due to us clearing out the mercenary camp and helping Uncle Yor, We now know that there are some mercenaries looking for the same lab X8. So our best course of action, eliminate both the messenger and the leader of the mercs, so we can go there undisturbed. So we are transported to a vantage point with a high-powered sniper rifle. It's all about slowing down our breath and then shoot. Now after this, we won't be interrupted while searching the lab. So off we go. To access the lab, we have to take an elevator down. However, we first must turn on the power, controlled by a generator, which is of course on the top floor of the building. Overall, once again, the building is designed in a very strange way. There is one line to follow, which was sometimes quite hard to see and notice. Well, the zombies and monolith guys along the way gave me no issues though. Turning on the generator means that we can jump into the elevator and descend into Lab X8. Now, this lab is once again full of these phantom guys, so crates, boxes, and cans will start flying and trying to hit you. Some snorks will also try to mess you, and then... then I hear a baby crying in the bathroom. Nah, bro. That is... no. Now, luckily, it was just this weird mutant guy, but man. And then once again, why is this baby crying motif, or something like that, used literally once in the entire game? Like, this is the atmosphere I'm talking about. In some parts, it's missing a little bit, and in other parts, there's so much of it, I freaking love it. Chef's kiss. The rest of the lab is fine. I take 3 sets of documents, and in theory, you only really need 1 of them, so I was thinking hopefully 3 will suffice. Now, it turns out that it doesn't really matter one way or the other, but alright, we take those 3 sets of documents and back off home. Now, that is in the dark. And again, here, the atmosphere was absolutely amazing. I will keep harping on about this because, listen, this is just one of the things that Stalker does so freaking well, and is well done in all 3 Stalker games. Speaking to Kowalski, he thinks that the reason they are unable to establish contact with HQ is due to a malicious radio interference from somewhere nearby. Well, that sounds like a mission for me, if I've ever heard one. To access the scrambler, we first blow open the door, and then at the top floor, we find a very crudely made radio interference machine. Shooting it doesn't quite work, so yeah. Down below in a freezer, we also find Lieutenant Rogovets, who was missing from the base for some time. Stuff gets a little bit crazy around here, just like Kowalski said. With communications to HQ finally established again,
I spoke to the HQ commander and reported the situation to him, along with all the information that's been collected. There won't be any helicopter support for a while. He suggested that we fortify our position and await further...
And then we are sent to investigate a radio signal not too far from our location. Now this is a very strange but short mission. We walk over to one of the sewer entrances and are told that we should return to the base immediately because an attack might be incoming. The radio signal came from downstairs, and it doesn't even turn out to be an attack. It is actually someone coming towards us. And this guy...
I'm headed to the main entrance.
Who are you?
My name is S.T.A.L.K.E.R.
They got S.T.A.L.K.E.R. This guy has been in all 3 of the games now. Once as the antagonist, then as the playable character and protagonist, and now he has a tiny role here towards the end as an NPC. Pretty fascinating. S.T.A.L.K.E.R. tells us that the anomalies shift positions after each emission. That's why the flight paths of the helicopters are useless, and that's also why all of the Stingrays crashed. Equipped with this new information, we wait a couple of minutes for a new emission to pass, and then it is time to get evacuated.
Roger.
So it is time to move out. On this last track to the evacuation position, it is quite interesting. Zombies approach from pretty much all directions. We have to make sure that none of our people die, which is harder than it might look. Even though this could be seen as an escort mission, it really does not feel that way. Because the NPCs in Stalker are also doing, something, and actually get rid of some of the zombies and enemies, it feels much closer to actual teamwork. Then all of a sudden, 1,000 snorks descend down onto us, and we go to this very, very creepy zone. This is where I revive the medic because no man gets left behind. And of course, in the last second, Monolith shows up. Everyone is getting to the helicopters except for me, which triggers the evacuation cutscene. And now, I am left within the firefights, just thinking to myself, hello? Have I just failed the game? But I decided to stay determined and continue the fight, even though I'm thinking this is probably an unwinnable fight, so I may or may not have to reload. Now this is not quite accurate, because I actually looked it up, because I was a little bit stuck. There's actually zero indication given anywhere. You can literally just return to the military outpost we had, talk to Gary, and you just tell him to leave the zone, and then all of a sudden the ending cutscene plays. Alright, I'll have some selected parts play and then tell you about my thoughts.
As a reward for successfully completing his investigation, S.T.A.L.K.E.R was offered a promotion to colonel and the position of mission coordinator. He declined the opportunity to work at the HQ and submitted a personal request to be sent to the zone as the USS Permanent Observer. Skadovsk became home to any and all who could reach it. Fierce Stalker resistance did not stop the bandits from making regular and ultimately unsuccessful attempts to establish their so-called order on the ship. Despite this ongoing struggle, the Skadovsk carried on its unique brand of life. Gradual balance was reached between freedom and duty squads at Yanov Station. Tired of the endless struggle, fighters of both factions started leaving their squads and joining the Free Stalker. Rumors of Zulu's fate reached the leader of duty, General Voronin. Counter to most expectations, Voronin decided to posthumously award Zulu with the Silver Shield, duty's highest decoration. Vano headed off to the freedom-controlled military warehouses, where his cheerful personality and optimism quickly earned him the popularity they merited. Ultimately, he took charge of a small group of researchers involved in investigating anomalous areas. S.T.A.L.K.E.R passed on the information he obtained on his trip to the Chernobyl NPP to the USS commanders. This prompted the government to create a scientific institute for research of the Chernobyl anomalous area.
Well, and there you have it, Stalker Call of Pripyat. Let's talk about some of the decisions that were made in this game. Once more, compared to Clear Sky, there were some vast improvements, like for example, the stamina finally recharging as you're moving. However, overall, I feel more critical about the changes than anything else. Getting armor and weapon upgrades behind finding some tools is kind of neat, like I've mentioned, but without any indication where to go, it just felt a little bit off. Also, the artifacts once again, just like in Clear Sky, they were utterly useless. I did not find a single artifact that didn't also give me some radiation, so I don't know. Now, I'm pretty sure there are artifacts that like remove the radiation from you, but I found like 10 in total and 0 of them took away radiation, so I don't know. To be fair, the money is nice from them, but I don't know, it just really isn't that big of a deal in the whole scheme of things, right? It kind of disincentivizes me to keep looking for them. Look, as for the characters in the story, I don't know, like of all the 3 games, the story was kind of one of the weakest in my opinion. Because when you think about it, Shadow of Chernobyl as well as Clear Sky, both of them were personal storylines, you know? Something happened to the player character. However, this time, you're just basically Army Guy 876 that was sent in there with some orders, and you were just kind of a military dude. Of course it can work as a storytelling device, but I don't know. Here, I didn't like it that much. As for the characters, the ones I really remember are Vano, without a doubt, Nitro and Beard, and then, yeah, of course, a couple of others as well. But overall, it just feels like there was just something slightly missing over here. Just the slightest bit. By the way, the only reason I sound so critical is because of how amazing these Stalker games have been. I can basically recommend all 3 of them, absolutely. But Shadow of Chernobyl was just fantastic. Clear Sky was good too, I would say. But here, I'm just somewhat disappointed. You know, the quests were super simplistic. Of course, the map was also way smaller, which wasn't necessarily the worst thing, and it doesn't necessarily retract from anything, but it does feel a little bit less dynamic. Clear Sky was a world that was breathing and changing. Same with Shadow of Chernobyl. Here it was far less dynamic, you know what I mean? And the evacuation at the end, it was okay, but once again, similar to Clear Sky, the ending just felt completely anticlimactic. Especially when you think about the fact that the ending cutscene played, or rather the evacuation cutscene played, and then I had to walk, and then I had to talk to a character, and then the ending cutscenes just played. It felt really flat in my opinion. The ending itself, showing off different cutscenes on what happened, depending on your choices and what quests you did throughout the game, I actually really enjoyed that. That was actually a really cool touch. This has been similar to things we've seen in the Fallout universe as well. So within the Stalker games, I mean, I have to put Shadow of Chernobyl at the very top, right? That is, without a doubt, in my opinion, the best game in the series and deserves a 9 out of 10. That's exactly what I gave it in my retrospective on the game, and it was absolutely clear. When it comes to Clear Sky, I've given it a 7.5 out of 10 because I had some gripes with it. The faction war system was interesting, but it wasn't that well implemented. At least I didn't interface it so much that I could, really enjoy it, let's say. Of course, that was still solid. However, this one, let the flame wars begin in the comments. Listen, I cannot bring myself to give the game more than a 7 out of 10. I know putting it below Clear Sky is an absolute disaster, and I absolutely know that the community loves this. However, the thing about it is that when I think about memorable moments here, there were just not that many compared to both Shadow of Chernobyl, which had plenty of them, and then Clear Sky. It's kind of a rough one for me because I really had high hopes, but it is what it is. 7 out of 10, sadly that's all I can give. Now please, don't send Monolith after me, okay? I still think that all 3 games are absolutely awesome, and all 3 of them should be played, right? But in my opinion, I would probably rather replay Shadow of Chernobyl, maybe with some mods, before I replay Call of Pripyat again. But regardless of that, the mission, look at that. The mission is finally complete, and I have looked at all 3 original Stalker games. Where this journey goes next, I don't quite know yet. Well, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the retrospective, don't forget to subscribe, and YouTube thinks that this video is the one you'll enjoy watching most. Hope to see you there. So, yeah.